Art.
She studied art at university and became a professional artist. She studied art at university and became a professional artist. The art gallery featured works from local painters. The art gallery featured works from local painters. They visited the museum to see the art collection. They visited the museum to see the art collection.
Painting.
She created a beautiful painting of the countryside. She created a beautiful painting of the countryside. The painting was displayed in the main gallery. The painting was displayed in the main gallery. They admired the painting for its use of color and light. They admired the painting for its use of color and light.
Painter.
She became a professional painter after years of practice. She became a professional painter after years of practice. The painter used oil paints to create the portrait. The painter used oil paints to create the portrait. They met the painter at the exhibition opening. They met the painter at the exhibition opening.
Brush.
She cleaned her brush after finishing the painting. She cleaned her brush after finishing the painting. The brush had fine bristles for detailed work. The brush had fine bristles for detailed work. They bought a set of brushes for their art class. They bought a set of brushes for their art class.
Canvas.
She stretched the canvas over the wooden frame. She stretched the canvas over the wooden frame. The canvas was ready for the artist to begin painting. The canvas was ready for the artist to begin painting. They chose a large canvas for their landscape painting. They chose a large canvas for their landscape painting.
Palette.
She mixed the colors on her palette before applying them. She mixed the colors on her palette before applying them. The palette was covered with various shades of blue and green. The palette was covered with various shades of blue and green. They cleaned the palette at the end of each painting session. They cleaned the palette at the end of each painting session.
Portrait.
She commissioned a portrait of her family. She commissioned a portrait of her family. The portrait captured the subject's expression perfectly. The portrait captured the subject's expression perfectly. They hung the portrait in the living room. They hung the portrait in the living room.
Landscape.
She painted a beautiful landscape of the mountains. She painted a beautiful landscape of the mountains. The landscape showed the countryside in autumn colors. The landscape showed the countryside in autumn colors. They admired the landscape for its realistic detail. They admired the landscape for its realistic detail.
Still life.
She arranged flowers and fruit for a still life painting. She arranged flowers and fruit for a still life painting. The still life featured a vase, apples, and a book. The still life featured a vase, apples, and a book. They studied still life painting in their art class. They studied still life painting in their art class.
Sculpture.
She created a sculpture from marble in her studio. She created a sculpture from marble in her studio. The sculpture was displayed in the park for everyone to see. The sculpture was displayed in the park for everyone to see. They admired the sculpture for its intricate details. They admired the sculpture for its intricate details.
Gallery.
She visited the gallery to see the new exhibition. She visited the gallery to see the new exhibition. The gallery featured works from contemporary artists. The gallery featured works from contemporary artists. They attended the opening night at the gallery. They attended the opening night at the gallery.
Exhibition.
She organized an exhibition of her recent paintings. She organized an exhibition of her recent paintings. The exhibition attracted visitors from all over the city. The exhibition attracted visitors from all over the city. They reviewed the exhibition for the local newspaper. They reviewed the exhibition for the local newspaper.
Museum.
She spent the afternoon exploring the museum. She spent the afternoon exploring the museum. The museum housed an impressive collection of modern art. The museum housed an impressive collection of modern art. They visited the museum every time they came to the city. They visited the museum every time they came to the city.
Music.
She loved listening to classical music in the evenings. She loved listening to classical music in the evenings. The music filled the concert hall with beautiful sounds. The music filled the concert hall with beautiful sounds. They studied music theory at the conservatoire. They studied music theory at the conservatoire.
Musician.
She was a talented musician who played the violin. She was a talented musician who played the violin. The musician performed at the local theatre. The musician performed at the local theatre. They became a professional musician after years of training. They became a professional musician after years of training.
Instrument.
She learned to play a musical instrument when she was young. She learned to play a musical instrument when she was young. The instrument produced a beautiful, clear sound. The instrument produced a beautiful, clear sound. They practiced on their instrument every day. They practiced on their instrument every day.
Piano.
She played the piano beautifully at the recital. She played the piano beautifully at the recital. The piano was tuned before the concert. The piano was tuned before the concert. They had a grand piano in their living room. They had a grand piano in their living room.
Guitar.
She learned to play the guitar during her summer holiday. She learned to play the guitar during her summer holiday. The guitar had 6 strings and a beautiful sound. The guitar had 6 strings and a beautiful sound. They strummed the guitar around the campfire. They strummed the guitar around the campfire.
Violin.
She practiced the violin for 2 hours every day. She practiced the violin for 2 hours every day. The violin produced a sweet, melodic sound. The violin produced a sweet, melodic sound. They listened to the violin solo during the concert. They listened to the violin solo during the concert.
Orchestra.
She played in the orchestra at the local concert hall. She played in the orchestra at the local concert hall. The orchestra performed a symphony by Beethoven. The orchestra performed a symphony by Beethoven. They attended the orchestra concert on Saturday evening. They attended the orchestra concert on Saturday evening.
Concert.
She bought tickets for the concert next month. She bought tickets for the concert next month. The concert featured music from the Romantic period. The concert featured music from the Romantic period. They enjoyed the concert and gave a standing ovation. They enjoyed the concert and gave a standing ovation.
Song.
She wrote a beautiful song about friendship. She wrote a beautiful song about friendship. The song became very popular on the radio. The song became very popular on the radio. They sang along to their favorite song. They sang along to their favorite song.
Singer.
She was a talented singer with a beautiful voice. She was a talented singer with a beautiful voice. The singer performed at the local music festival. The singer performed at the local music festival. They became a professional singer after winning the competition. They became a professional singer after winning the competition.
Composer.
She studied to become a composer at music school. She studied to become a composer at music school. The composer wrote a symphony for the orchestra. The composer wrote a symphony for the orchestra. They admired the composer for their innovative style. They admired the composer for their innovative style.
Melody.
She hummed the melody of the song she had heard. She hummed the melody of the song she had heard. The melody was catchy and easy to remember. The melody was catchy and easy to remember. They composed a beautiful melody for the new piece. They composed a beautiful melody for the new piece.
Rhythm.
She tapped her foot to the rhythm of the music. She tapped her foot to the rhythm of the music. The rhythm of the song made everyone want to dance. The rhythm of the song made everyone want to dance. They learned about different rhythms in their music class. They learned about different rhythms in their music class.
Literature.
She studied English literature at university. She studied English literature at university. The literature course covered works from different periods. The literature course covered works from different periods. They had a passion for literature and reading. They had a passion for literature and reading.
Book.
She read a fascinating book about history. She read a fascinating book about history. The book was written by a famous author. The book was written by a famous author. They borrowed the book from the library. They borrowed the book from the library.
Author.
She met the author at a book signing event. She met the author at a book signing event. The author wrote several best-selling novels. The author wrote several best-selling novels. They admired the author for their writing style. They admired the author for their writing style.
Novel.
She wrote her first novel over the course of 2 years. She wrote her first novel over the course of 2 years. The novel was set in Victorian London. The novel was set in Victorian London. They couldn't put the novel down once they started reading it. They couldn't put the novel down once they started reading it.
Poetry.
She wrote poetry in her spare time. She wrote poetry in her spare time. The poetry collection was published last year. The poetry collection was published last year. They studied poetry from different literary movements. They studied poetry from different literary movements.
Poem.
She wrote a beautiful poem about nature. She wrote a beautiful poem about nature. The poem was published in a literary magazine. The poem was published in a literary magazine. They recited the poem from memory at the poetry reading. They recited the poem from memory at the poetry reading.
Poet.
She was a renowned poet who won several awards. She was a renowned poet who won several awards. The poet read their work at the literary festival. The poet read their work at the literary festival. They studied the works of famous poets in their literature class. They studied the works of famous poets in their literature class.
Character.
She created a memorable character for her novel. She created a memorable character for her novel. The character was based on someone she knew. The character was based on someone she knew. They discussed the main characters in the book club. They discussed the main characters in the book club.
Plot.
She developed an intricate plot for her mystery novel. She developed an intricate plot for her mystery novel. The plot had many unexpected twists and turns. The plot had many unexpected twists and turns. They found the plot of the story very engaging. They found the plot of the story very engaging.
Chapter.
She finished writing the first chapter of her book. She finished writing the first chapter of her book. The chapter ended with a cliffhanger that made her want to continue. The chapter ended with a cliffhanger that made her want to continue. They read one chapter each night before bed. They read one chapter each night before bed.
Library.
She borrowed books from the local library every week. She borrowed books from the local library every week. The library had an extensive collection of literature. The library had an extensive collection of literature. They studied quietly in the library during exam time. They studied quietly in the library during exam time.
Publisher.
She sent her manuscript to a publisher. She sent her manuscript to a publisher. The publisher accepted her novel for publication. The publisher accepted her novel for publication. They worked with a publisher to edit their book. They worked with a publisher to edit their book.
Genre.
She preferred reading fiction in the mystery genre. She preferred reading fiction in the mystery genre. The genre of the book was science fiction. The genre of the book was science fiction. They explored different genres of literature in their course. They explored different genres of literature in their course.
Fiction.
She wrote fiction novels set in imaginary worlds. She wrote fiction novels set in imaginary worlds. The fiction section of the library was very popular. The fiction section of the library was very popular. They enjoyed reading fiction more than non-fiction. They enjoyed reading fiction more than non-fiction.
Non-fiction.
She wrote non-fiction books about historical events. She wrote non-fiction books about historical events. The non-fiction section included biographies and memoirs. The non-fiction section included biographies and memoirs. They preferred non-fiction books about science and nature. They preferred non-fiction books about science and nature.
Biography.
She read a biography of a famous scientist. She read a biography of a famous scientist. The biography detailed the person's life and achievements. The biography detailed the person's life and achievements. They wrote a biography about their grandmother's life. They wrote a biography about their grandmother's life.
Essay.
She wrote an essay about climate change for her assignment. She wrote an essay about climate change for her assignment. The essay was well researched and clearly argued. The essay was well researched and clearly argued. They submitted their essay to a literary magazine. They submitted their essay to a literary magazine.
Play.
She wrote a play that was performed at the local theatre. She wrote a play that was performed at the local theatre. The play was a comedy that made the audience laugh. The play was a comedy that made the audience laugh. They attended a play at the West End in London. They attended a play at the West End in London.
Theatre.
She worked at the theatre as a stage manager. She worked at the theatre as a stage manager. The theatre was packed for the opening night. The theatre was packed for the opening night. They went to the theatre to see a Shakespeare play. They went to the theatre to see a Shakespeare play.
Stage.
She walked onto the stage to begin her performance. She walked onto the stage to begin her performance. The stage was set with beautiful scenery for the play. The stage was set with beautiful scenery for the play. They watched the actors perform on the stage. They watched the actors perform on the stage.
Actor.
She was a talented actor who performed in many plays. She was a talented actor who performed in many plays. The actor memorized all their lines for the performance. The actor memorized all their lines for the performance. They studied to become an actor at drama school. They studied to become an actor at drama school.